Imagine waking before the twin suns rise. Not because of an alarm, not because of urgency, but because the silence outside your small homestead changes. It thickens. You become attuned to that silence over time. You learn to sense when the desert is holding its breath. You open your eyes not to darkness, but to a dim amber glow seeping through the sealed hatch. Soft and heavy like damp cloth. It isn't warm yet, but it will be. The cot creaks beneath you. Its frame is metal, hand-welded generations ago, and repurposed more times than you can count. You swing your legs over the side, feet landing in grit. You never win the war against the sand. It comes through vents, through doors, in your hair, beneath your nails. It waits in your boots. It settles between the fibers of your blankets. It lives with you. Before anything else, you wrap your tunic tightly. The air inside is still, but dry enough to pull moisture from your breath and leave your lips tight. The central chamber of your home is dim, lit only by the gentle hum of auxiliary power. A cracked monitor ticks in the corner, still working despite the age. You check it briefly. Power flow, stable. Moisture extraction, nominal. External temperature, moderate for now. You step outside, boots crunching softly against the hardened dust. The first evaporator stands like a skeleton of old tech. A narrow tower of metal, patched and repatched until the original form has vanished under repairs. Each one is different. Each one a history of your family's survival, written in welds and wire. They do not gleam. They do not hum with the elegance of core world tech. They wheeze. They rattle. They work just well enough. You start with the far tower, the one that picks up the least wind, the one whose calibration always slips. You pull the access panel open with both hands, the latch catching as it always does. Inside, condensation collectors shiver faintly. Moisture beading on the inner wall. Not from abundance, but because you've tuned the intake valve precisely over years of trial. You adjust the aperture, then brush a finger along the copper coil. It's warm, too warm. The unit's heat sink is clogged again. You'll need to climb it today. This is how every morning begins, not with routine, but with triage. You move from tower to tower. Each has its voice, its rhythm. You know when one is off before you even reach it. You can hear it in the delay of its turbine, in the uneven cadence of its hum. You fix what you can, log what you can't. One needs a new processor. Another has its antenna bent slightly off axis. The desert wind is relentless. It doesn't howl every day, but it pushes and pulls against every structure until small flaws become faults. The air grows warmer as the suns rise. The first sun, the gentler one, casts light that's almost soft. It stretches shadows across the dunes, turning jagged outcroppings into rivers of dark gold. The second sun brings the bite. The shadows shorten. The color bleaches out of everything. That's when you know the day has truly begun. Inside, your family eats in silence. You spoon thick grain paste into your mouth. Slowly, methodically. It's not unpleasant. It is texture, familiarity, the kind that's worn smooth by repetition. Water is passed out in exact quantities. The children drink first, then the workers, then you. Every sip is measured, every drop is earned. The ledger is updated after every meal. Not just how much water was consumed, but how much vapor was collected, what the humidity curve suggested, and which tower showed signs of wear. Today's tasks include fencing repairs along the southern ridge. The fencing isn't meant to keep anyone out. Not really. It's more psychological than practical. A line in the sand, A claim, an announcement that this stretch of land, barren though it may be, is yours. At least until someone with more power decides it isn't. You load tools into your repulsor cart. They hum faintly. Old parts refitted into useful shapes. You drive out slowly. The sand fights the cart's treads. Nothing is ever easy. At the ridge, the fencing is tilted. Posts lean awkwardly, dragged over weeks by shifting sand and wind. You remove one, dig a fresh hole, and drive it deeper than before. The process is slow, almost meditative. You brace the post with your knee, tamp it down with your heel. The heat presses against your back. Tools become hot to the touch. You use a cloth to grip them. You repeat the motion dozens of times. Step, take, dot, hammer, key, adjust. Each post becomes a landmark in your day. Each one a small success. No one thanks you. No one watches. But you do it anyway, because this is what keeps the land yours. You pause to drink. The water flask is wrapped in canvas to keep it from warming. You only take 2 sips, enough to wet the inside of your mouth. The rest must last the day. From the ridge you can see down into the lower flats, a depression in the terrain where water never gathers but sand always does. Sometimes you find bones there. Animal, dot. Human, dot. Hard to tell, sometimes. The sun doesn't preserve. It erases. On your way back, a Jawa scout watches you from a dune. You pretend not to notice. You know better than to startle them. Trade is based on rhythm. You must see them 3 times before you speak. The first time is just observation. The second, a silent gesture. The third, an invitation. This is the first time. The wind picks up in the early afternoon. It always does. The homestead seems to shrink in the distance, low and square and half buried in sand. You drive the cart slowly, letting it adjust its own balance. The treads are unreliable. The machine wants to veer left. You learned to correct it without thinking long ago. You pull into the shade of the maintenance overhang. It doesn't offer much relief, but it's a signal. This task is done. You log the completed repairs by scratching them into a panel near the door. There used to be a datapad, but sand clogged the port. Etching metal with a stylus never fails. Inside, the house is dim and quiet. You leave your boots in the airlock vestibule. One fewer source of grit indoors. The children are silent, one curled in a corner with an old droid part, the other wiping condenser film from a water tray. They don't speak unless you do. They've learned silence is a kind of power out here. You check the nutrient vault. It's low. 2 more meals before a resupply. You calculate how long until the next trade caravan. The timing is tight. Maybe you'll need to stretch the pace thinner. Mix in root, fiber. It's bland, but filling. Your stomach won't mind. It stopped having preferences years ago. The greenhouse hums steadily. Inside are algae trays, rehydrated seed mats, and one precious hydrofruit vine. It clings to a lattice, its stalk wiry, its leaves pale from too much reflected light. You check the misters. A few nozzles are clogged. You clean them with a needle from your sleeve pouch. A small tool, but vital. If this vine dies, it will be months before the next one grows. You used to try flowers, something to add color, but they required too much water, too much hope. The vine is better, practical, persistent. You adjust the filtration panel, tapping gently until it hums correctly. This is a trick your father taught you. Machines don't respond to force. They respond to familiarity. You talk to them, even if only in your head. You name the systems, assign the moods. Not out of madness, out of companionship. The wind starts to whistle. You know what that means. A front is coming. Nothing dangerous, but sharp enough to sting exposed skin. You activate the outer shields. They close with a drawn-out groan. Your daughter covers her ears. You touch her shoulder briefly. The sound fades. You light a single bulb in the main room. Enough to see, not enough to waste power. You sit in the corner where the wall is warmest. There's a data chip reader there, fixed in place with epoxy and stubbornness. You insert a story reel. It begins to scroll text. No images, just words. You read slowly, each line like a lull in the storm. Evening will come soon. And with it, another shift in tasks. Evening brings with it the soft decline of heat, but not of labor. The worst of the sun's blaze has passed, but the dust lingers, suspended in air, caught in every breath. You step outside again, wearing a scarf across your mouth. It does little. The air tastes like copper and dryness. You inspect the eastern towers. These are the newer ones, built in your parents' time, after a particularly profitable trade season. They work better than the old ones, but only just. One tower flickers. Its diagnostic lights sputter. The intake fan stutters once, then resumes its rhythm. You make a note to watch it overnight. The dust makes the horizon vague. Shapes blur. The line between sky and land becomes a gradient of rust and gold. Somewhere in that shimmer, something moves. Slow and hunched. A bantha, possibly. A Tuscan scout. Less likely, but possible. You wait, watching, until it fades into the mirage. The water count is below projection. You recheck the storage levels. Condensation yields are down, likely due to the warm front. You reroute 2 intake valves, balancing the pressure between towers manually. A slow process, but one that buys you a few more liters by morning. Enough to delay panic. Back inside, the central room is cooler now. Your partner is preparing the evening mix. Heat-stabilized protein gel, rehydrated over a long flame. The smell is minimal, but it signals a pause in motion. A quiet, a time for stillness. You eat slowly. Across the table, the children fidget. One of them has been sketching in the dust on the floor. Little towers, crude suns, a bantha with oddly shaped legs. You don't stop them. You never do. Some things deserve space. After the meal, you go over the power budget. Energy cells are holding, but you'll need to rotate the old panels off the west wall soon. Their efficiency drops when sand builds in the joints. Cleaning them is a half-day task. But it buys you time. Always you're buying time. A chime sounds. Faint. Darting. Metallic. The motion sensor on the perimeter. You freeze for a moment. Then exhale. It's too early for raiders. Too quiet for predators. You walk to the viewport and peer through the narrow slit. A small silhouette stands at the edge of the fence. Cloaked. Hooded. A glint of light reflects from mismatched lenses. A Jawa. The second sighting. You step outside slowly, not approaching. You raise one hand, palm out. The Jawa nods once and turns, vanishing into the settling dark. You'll see him again soon if trade is coming. You hope it is. You're low on diodes. And your daughter has outgrown her boots. Later, you prepare for night rotation. Systems must be checked one last time. You move from room to room, listening to each console's quiet pulse. In the greenhouse, the vine has curled tighter around its frame. You missed it briefly, just enough to keep it content. There is no singing in this home. No bedtime stories. Only ritual. Night routine is your lullaby. Consistency is comfort. You step onto the roof for one last scan of the horizon. The stars emerge slowly, piercing the dusty veil above. They flicker more than they should. The atmosphere has been unsettled lately. You track familiar constellations, ones you know from charts, not from mythology. To your right, a tower hums. To your left, silence. You turn your ear and listen. The silence isn't wrong. It's waiting. You descend the ladder carefully, boots brushing against the rails. Your knees ache. They always have. You no longer remember when that started. In the control room, you sit and log the day's changes. Humidity, down. Temperature, steady. Yields, modest. Risk, rising. You do not write that last one. You just know it. You end the day, as always, by walking past each child's bed, not to wake them, not to touch them, just to look, to confirm presence, breathing, rest, continuity. Outside, the desert still moves, the towers still breathe, but inside, the quiet settles like fine dust. You lay down, eyes open, tracing the ceiling patterns cast by low lights. Tomorrow would be the same, or slightly worse, and somehow that's enough. You dream of water, not a river. That would be too fantastical. You've never seen one. Not in memory, not in holo. No. You dream of condensation, of tiny droplets forming on cold metal. You see the shimmer of vapor turning to liquid, bead by bead. Each one a promise, each one earned. You reach out in the dream to catch a drop, but it evaporates before your fingers close. This, too, is familiar. The hum of the air filter wakes you. You don't rise yet. You lie still listening, not for danger, for our absence. Silence is never empty here. It's packed with meaning. No alarm, no breach. The system survived the night. That's good. You rise slowly, knees tight, spine stiff. You stretch with a grunt that no one hears. The cot creaks again, the same way it did yesterday, and the day before. Your partner's already in the kitchen, heating paste. The same mix, same texture. You nod. No words needed. Words are for variations, and there are none. The children stir but do not rise. They've learned. Let the systems come online first. Let the walls warm. Let the day decide its mood. You check the exterior cameras. All towers operational. All readings nominal. You breathe out, slowly, through your nose. It's a good morning. The dew traps on the north side have collected more than expected. A minor victory. You mark it in your log with a small asterisk. Not a celebration. Just a note. A deviation. Something worth watching. Today is maintenance day. You gather tools, inspect filters, reload your sleeve pouch with clips and seals. The smallest parts always go missing first. The Jawas would trade for them, but your last supply still holds. For now. You start with the ventilation outflows. Each one must be cleared of silt buildup. The fans themselves don't mind the dust, but the buildup causes heat inefficiencies. And inefficiency is the first step to failure. You scrub in circles, rinse, repeat. Hours pass like this, not measured in time, but in tasks. You check water levels, patch a leak in the east line, replace a relay coil. Each action, a step towards staving off collapse. You speak only once to yourself. When a wrench slips from your fingers and lands in the sand, off course. You brush it off and continue. By midday, the suns are back in full force. The western panels have warped slightly in their frames. You knew this would happen. It always does when the temperature passes threshold. You log the warping. You plan to rotate them out tomorrow. In the shade of the tower, you drink. Again, only 2 sips. Always 2. You think about your grandfather. He used to drink 3. Claimed it was his birthright. We earn this land. We earn every drop. You remember the day he collapsed. It wasn't dramatic. Just quiet. He sat down near a condenser, looked up at the twin suns, and didn't stand again. You don't drink 3. You finish the external rounds before sundown. A Jawa appears again. The 3rd time, right on schedule. He stands at the same spot near the perimeter. You approach slowly, holding your hands open. Trade begins without words. You offer scrap coils, worn processors, and a partially functioning sensor array. In return, fasteners, tubing, and most valuable of all, 2 replacement boots. Child-sized. The Jawa nods and disappears over the ridge. You don't smile, but your chest loosens slightly. One less worry. That night, you sit with your children. One of them reads aloud from a storage slate. A weather report from the prior decade. They don't ask for fiction. They don't need stories. Just the sound of language. Familiar thought. Steady. Wind. Later, after the lights dim and the home is sealed, you return to the roof. The stars are clear tonight. No clouds. No sand drift. Just points of light in cold darkness. You imagine what it's like up there, in the orbitals, on ships that run warm and pressurized, with tanks of water so full they waste it on showers. You imagine walking across a deck with clean boots, air that smells like metal instead of dust. But then again, you know this place. Every noise, every silence, every breath. And there's comfort in that too. You descend, power off the roof sensors, step back inside. Tomorrow, the coils will need cleaning again, and you will do it. At first light, you wake to the hiss of the regulator rebooting. A faint flicker of light through the vent means the main evaporator had a momentary power lapse. Nothing serious, unless it becomes routine. You stretch your arm toward the console without rising, tap in the override, and listen for the steady hum to return. It does. You sit up, rest your elbows on your knees, and let your thoughts catch up. There's always a delay between the stillness of sleep and the weight of the day ahead. It's not dread, just density. Damn it. The kind that settles over your shoulders and into your spine before the first task even begins. The small table holds your breakfast ration. It's already been placed there. No one announces it. No one serves it. The packet steams faintly. A thermal pouch containing grain slurry with protein additive. You chew slowly, eyes on the wall, reading the faint outlines left by years of scrubbing. Patterns emerge if you stare long enough. You used to imagine them as maps. Now they're just reminders. Outside, the wind is light but rising. You know that sound. A soft, irregular pull at the edges of the structure, as though the desert is testing for cracks. You'll need to check the eastern seal later. It's been loosening with the last few heat cycles. You start the day with diagnostics. The main condenser reports a minor drop in saturation efficiency. Nothing critical, but something worth adjusting. You slide on your repair belt, tighten the straps across your chest, and head out before the heat fully settles. The sand near the main tower feels softer than usual. That means shifting underneath, possibly a nest. You pause, scan the ground with a long rod, and find a hollow patch, too shallow for a burrower, likely a collapsed vent line. You'll patch it later. You can't fix everything at once. The tower groans as you climb it. The ladder is narrow, bent slightly from years of strain. Your hands find each familiar grip. You don't look down. There's no fear. Just no reason to waste energy on distance. At the top, the intake grill is clogged. You unscrew it, clean the filter manually with a cloth, and tap the frame twice before resealing. It's a habit. You don't remember why you started doing it. Below, the horizon stretches in every direction, empty and blinding. A low blur near the West Ridge marks another homestead. You haven't spoken to them in months. There's no need. If something went wrong, you'd see smoke. Or silence. You descend carefully. The steps creak. The same way they always do. At the bottom, you pause to stretch your back. The vertebrae pop, in sequence. That's the closest thing you get to relief. By midday, the second sun is fully risen. The light has gone from golden to white. Shadows are gone. Everything is exposed. Inside the house, the air is cooler. You sit near the central panel, reviewing power flow. There's a dip in one of the battery cells. Likely degradation. You mark it, then shuffle through spare modules in the back closet. You find one with partial charge and install it manually. It's not a perfect fit, but it holds. You check the children's assignments next. Moisture, balance, equations, circuit diagrams, language drills. You don't say much, just nod. They know what's expected. You spend the afternoon rebalancing the nutrient mix. A small algae bloom has begun in one of the tubes. Harmless, but left alone, it could clog the filters. You scrape it out gently, add stabilizer drops, and flush the line twice. The water pulses green, then clear. Your partner hands you a tool satchel on the way out. No words, just a strap against your palm. You head to the storage room, check the lock, and retrieve your trade record. You'll need to update it before the next Jawa visit. Each item is logged, not by name, but by weight, by energy value, by repair potential. Everything is measured in what it can prevent from failing. The wind has shifted by evening. A slow howl through the upper vent suggests you'll need to seal the greenhouse manually tonight. You check the vines. Still healthy. A few new shoots. You mist them carefully, adjusting the sprayers one click to the left for better coverage. Dinner is the same as yesterday and the day before. A single protein strip each, a bowl of nutrient broth, a cube of preserved root. No one complains. No one speaks. After the meal, you wipe the table with a damp cloth. You do it slowly, with care, as if the act itself holds meaning. And maybe it does. As night falls, the heat recedes, but the air doesn't cool so much as it changes form. From dry fire to dense silence. Inside, the homestead is sealed. The vents hum softly. You sit near the main panel with your logbook open, pencil poised. Not to write anything profound, just the daily entries. Tower 3, stable drywall, greenhouse, humidifier filter replaced. Power cell 7, holding, trade due in 5 days. Child boots, acquired. You underline the last one. Small victories deserve acknowledgement. Your partner reads a supply manifest aloud. Their voice is quiet even. You nod at intervals, not because you need the reminders, but because it matters that someone says the words. Inventory becomes a ritual, a kind of prayer. You take the night watch tonight. That means 3 rounds, 1 after sunset, 1 before sleep, and 1 just before false dawn. You pull on your outer layer, adjust your scarf, and step outside. The air is cooler, yes, but sharper too. It carries fine grains that sting the corners of your eyes. Your first stop is the south perimeter. The fence line is intact. The motion sensors blink a slow, reassuring pattern. The dunes have shifted since yesterday. You make a mental note to recalibrate the west-facing cameras. The next stop is the greenhouse. You shine your light in slowly, not wanting to startle the vine. It reacts to change in brightness. A subtle twitch of leaves, a curl of its stalk. You whisper to it. Not words, just breath. A habit passed down from a time when people believed in coaxing growth with kindness. The final stop is the main tower. You check the readout, log the figures, then sit at its base for a while. No particular reason. The hum of the condenser is steady, and the ground is warm from the day's heat. You lean against the support strut and rest your eyes. For a moment, you imagine this is a ship, a freighter maybe, one that crosses systems, skimming close to suns, hauling cargo to outposts. You, in the engine bay, listening to coolant circulate, not sand, not towers, just motion. But that's fantasy. You rise, dust off your knees, and return home. The children are asleep. One has a foot sticking out from the blanket. You tuck it back in without waking them. Your partner nods as you pass. They know the routine. They've done the same for you on other nights. You sit in the central room and write down the final line. Wind from the southeast. Sky mostly clear. Stars stable. Then you turn off the display. The cut is cool. The blanket rough, but familiar. You lie back, eyes open. Sometimes you listen for sounds from far away. The distant howl of a bantha, the metallic chirr of a scout droid, the faint thunder of a sandcrawler's treads. Tonight, there's only quiet, and in that quiet, the hum of the homestead, a low, persistent reminder that you're still here. Tomorrow will be the same, and you will rise. The next morning brings a power of fluctuation. It's not dramatic, just a momentary dimming of the hallway lights and a pause in the air system's hum. You catch it instantly. The kind of subtle shift only long habit teaches you to notice. You pause mid-chew, spoon hovering in nutrient gel, and wait for the lights to normalize. They do. Still, it means something. You finish your meal, set the bowl down neatly, and head straight for the battery relay cabinet. You open it carefully. The hinges squeak slightly. A reminder that lubrication is overdue. Inside, the status lights flicker unevenly. One of the cells is draining too quickly. You isolate the faulty unit. Pull it out. Run a hand over the casing. It's old. Older than your youngest. You remember installing it with your father. He said it would last 10 years. It's lasted 15. You tap it once, then set it aside. A replacement cell goes in. Not new, just less old. The light stabilizes. You watch it for a full minute before closing the cabinet. Outside, the wind is already high. Dust sprays in brief gusts that scatter small debris and whistle through the narrow tower arms. You pull your scarf tighter, double-wrap the goggles, and step into the yard. The perimeter fence is buried in spots. Only the tips of the posts show through the drifts. You use a rake, an old-fashioned tool, wooden-handled and wrapped in cloth for grip. Each scrape is slow, dragging through resistance, the sand clinging like static. It takes an hour to uncover the full boundary, another hour to straighten the sensors. By then your gloves are full of grit. Your knees ache. The back of your neck burns where the scarf has slipped. You check your water ration and drink half a measure. Midday brings more heat, but also the sound of approach. You recognize the low rumble of treads. A sandcrawler, closer than usual. You spot it through the haze. A rusted behemoth crawling slowly over a far dune. The same traders who visited a few days ago, or others. It's impossible to tell. Yawas don't differentiate for your convenience. You return inside, and prep the trade crate. A few worn but functional capacitors, stripped plating, some broken conduits. You line everything up by mass, not function. That's how they calculate worth. By the time the Jawas arrive, the light is already fading. They don't come inside. They never do. They stand at the threshold in a loose cluster, chirping and gesturing. You respond in kind, wordless, calm. You don't butter. You propose. They counter. The pattern is ritual now. You exchange the crate for wire spools, a sealed repair kit, and, unexpectedly, a bundle of cloth-wrapped books. Paper. Rare. Worthless in trade, but priceless in meaning. The Jawas must have salvaged them from an abandoned dome. You nod slowly, accept the offer. The lead Jawa clicks once, then taps the side of his hood twice. An old gesture. Respect. They leave, without further sound, swallowed by wind and dusk. Inside, the children unwrap the books. Most are damaged, water-warped, singed, stained, but a few pages remain legible. A diagram of a ship engine, a list of star systems, a poem in basic with uneven meter. You let them read until sleep takes them. Later, you shelve the bundle near the greenhouse, next to the old family holos, a quiet corner where preservation feels possible. Before bed, you climb to the roof. The stars are sharp tonight. The wind has calmed. You spot a small glimmer on the horizon. A satellite or distant orbital traffic. It disappears behind a slow-moving cloud of dust. You rest your hands on the tower's metal frame, feeling its faint warmth from the day's sun. You don't think of escape. You think of stability, of holding one more day together. And for now, that's enough. You wake before the system alarm. The power grid is stable. The air filters are running. The children are still asleep. Everything, in its own quiet way, is working. You move through the homestead without turning on the lights. You know the layout well enough. Each turn, each step, each low beam and uneven tile has long been memorized by your feet. It's not efficiency. It's intimacy. The kind only years of repetition can build. You open the small maintenance cabinet in the eastern corridor and check the temperature regulator. A faint buzz. That's new. You lean in, tap the panel. The buzz stops, then returns. Intermittent. Likely a cracked coupling inside the vent line. You log it for the afternoon. It can wait. Outside, the day begins not with light, but with color. The eastern sky is pale amber, deepening toward rust. The twin suns haven't broken the ridge yet, but their presence is felt. The air is heavy, loaded with potential heat. You breathe it in, slow and shallow. It's better not to fill your lungs completely. The dust settles more easily that way. Today is tower calibration. Once a month, you realign each evaporator to optimize moisture intake against atmospheric drift. The work is tedious, the adjustments small. A few millimeters left, a touch upward on the intake arc. Each tweak gains a fraction of a percent in efficiency, but across a month, those fractions matter. You start with Tower 2. The ladder is more corroded than last cycle. You pause halfway up, rest your hands on the rungs and look out. The homestead is still. Your partner moves along the far wall, checking the greenhouse insulation. The older child is running a systems check from the console, fingers hovering over buttons with a cautious, practiced rhythm. The tower reads slightly off azimuth. You adjust, recheck, tighten the mount, confirm stability, then down, on to the next. By midday, the suns have risen high. Shadows crawl inward. shrinking to nothing. The metal of the towers becomes too hot to touch barehanded. You wrap your fingers in cloth and finish the last adjustments. Sweat beads at the back of your neck and stays there, unwilling to fall. Even your perspiration is reluctant to leave you. You return inside, swap out your gloves, drink half your ration, and sit, only for a moment. You have just enough energy to feel the ache in your joints, knees, lower back, forearms. You no longer know which pain is old and which is new. The rest of the day is dedicated to microfilter replacement. The smallest components, easily clogged, often neglected. You work at the bench in silence, sorting them into piles by level of sediment. Your partner joins without a word, takes a cloth, and begins wiping the residue. The rhythm becomes something like music. Two hands moving in parallel, clearing, fitting, reassembling. You finish with 30 usable filters. 5 unusable. You keep even the damaged ones. Nothing is truly worthless. Not here. Evening brings a lull. The air outside cools slightly. You stand at the greenhouse window, watching the vine curl toward the artificial light. A tendril uncurls slowly, testing the edge of its enclosure. You wonder, not for the first time, what it would do if it were free. Whether it would stretch across the desert, root itself in sand, or wither at first contact. The children eat quietly. You talk about nothing, not in the empty sense, but in the deliberate one. Neutral topics. Weather, senso drift, the odd shape of a passing cloud. You save questions for the systems, not the people. Later, after they've gone to sleep, you open the side hatch and step out into the night air. The desert breathes slowly under the stars. You can feel it. Not in sound, but in weight. A kind of pressure, as if the dunes themselves are listening. You walk a slow circuit of the homestead, not because you expect danger, but because it's what you do, what you've always done. Each step, an assurance. Each glance, a confirmation. When you return inside, the lights are dimmed. The generator hums evenly. The cot is unmade, waiting. You sit down at the edge and listen. No alarms, no warnings. Just another day survived. Another cycle begins. You wake to the sound of a condenser fan rattling slightly. Not broken, but different. You notice. You always notice. It's part of your survival now. Learning to hear not just what is, but what has changed. Tiny differences, small misalignments, the subtle heralds of breakdown. You mark it for inspection. There's no rush. Nothing happens quickly out here. Not repair, not collapse. The children have already begun diagnostics. You glance over the display as you pass. Minor alerts, all manageable. You nod at them. They return the nod. No one speaks unless it's necessary. Language is rationed here too. Outside, the wind is low and dry. You climb Tower 1 again. Not for calibration this time, but for cleaning. Dust clogs the condenser arms, slowing water draw. You scrub each segment with a cloth wrapped around your fingers. You don't grip hard. That wastes strength. You let the grit come off slowly as if persuading it to leave. You take breaks not by sitting, but by standing still. You listen to the wind, to the tower's heartbeat. If it wavers, you'll know. By noon, your back aches. You don't stretch. Stretching makes it worse. You simply switch tasks, move to the relay coils, check for heat leaks, replace one thermal strip that's begun to peel. You eat beside the power core. One ration bar, one measured sip. The silence around you is thick, but familiar. Like a blanket made of sand. You think about your parents. They lived here, not on this homestead, but one like it. They taught you how to listen to the ground before walking, how to watch the shadows of birds to know where the worms had died. You remember how your mother used to hum while replacing fuses, a soft, near-silent tune with no words. You hum it now, just for a moment, then stop. It feels indulgent. The afternoon brings a message, not a visitor, just a flickering alert on the long-range comm. A local farmer further south has lost a tower. No water collection for 3 days. They ask for parts. You can spare some. Barely. You box up a spare relay, a coil, a roll of tubing. You write no message. Just attach the item log, seal the box, and place it on the old droid sled. You watch it disappear into the dunes, carrying more than it should. Evening light hits the dome just right. The dust on the outer panels turns gold for a few minutes. You stand still and watch. It's not beautiful, but it's different. And different is rare enough to be worth noticing. Inside, your partner's adjusting the seed tray angles. You join them, silently, helping to realign the mirrors. The light will hit better tomorrow. The vine may bloom, or not. You won't know until the next rotation. Dinner is simple. A thicker protein broth tonight. A trade gift from the Jawas. The children pretend not to be excited, but they finish quickly. Every spoon scraped clean. Afterward, you sit at the old table. You open the book found in the last salvage, a technical manual from a lost settlement. Half the diagrams are unreadable, but a few pages remain intact. You trace your fingers over a schematic of an evaporator core. It's nearly identical to yours. Somehow comforting. You record the day's numbers, the tower outputs, the power balance. A single drop increase in Tower 4's reading. You circle it. Bye. No commentary. Just the mark. Outside, the night hums again. You think of leaving sometimes, of what it would mean to walk beyond the perimeter and not return. But the thought doesn't bloom. It's like a seed without water. Present, but still harmless. Instead, you prepare the systems for another cycle. You check the sealant levels, top off the nutrient lines, clean the lens of the exterior camera with a damp cloth. When all is done, you sit by the doorway. You look out at the sand, at the shadows of the twin moons stretched across the dunes. You know this sight. You've seen it thousands of times. It never changes. And still, you watch it. Because on Tatooine, even stillness is hard-earned. You sleep lightly, not because of fear, but because your body doesn't remember how to truly let go. You wake twice in the night, once to the subtle shift of wind, once because you thought you heard a power relay hum wrong. You didn't, but you checked anyway. In the early pre-dawn, you're already awake. You don't rise immediately. You lie still listening. The children sleep on. One shifts, muttering a fragment of a dream. The sound is brief, then gone. You dress slowly, layer by layer. Soft linen undershirt, thick fabric overcoat, utility belt, scarf, goggles. Outside, the sky is a dark lavender, streaked faintly with sand that hasn't yet fallen. The stars are still visible, but fewer now. You take a long breath and begin the morning cycle. You start with the greenhouse. A small sprout has split its seed overnight. It trembles faintly toward the heat lamp, fragile and absurdly brave. You adjust the mist timer by 2 ticks and move on. In the yard, you check the droid sled's return path. The box is gone. A small data stick remains in its receiver. A receipt. The other farmer says, "Thanks." Nothing more. No name. No tone. Just acknowledgement. You pocket the stick and walk the perimeter. The fence is intact. A few loose stones near the western wall. The wind must have shifted hard in the night. You stack them back into place. One tower has a faint rattle in the intake. You climb the frame, muscles sore, but cooperative, and realign the housing. Just a hair to the left. The sound disappears. Below, your partner waves once, then goes back to the cooling coils. This is how your life continues. Not in great leaps or collapses, but in the endless smoothing of small errors, in preventing things from worsening, in giving just enough attention to delay entropy another day. Inside, breakfast is already on the table. 2 ration cubes, 1 thin broth, a fragment of dried fruit, sliced carefully into 4 parts. Everyone gets one, even the vine later. A few drops into the soil. That's the rule. You eat without hurry. Afterward, the children ask about the weather. You bring up the readings. High pressure. Dry winds. No change in dew point. You say this as if it were a surprise. It never is. Still, you say it. The day unfolds predictably. Your partner replaces a broken support strut in the irrigation rack. You realign the motion sensors on the north wall. The children recalibrate the data loggers. Practice for when they must do it alone. No drama. No failures. Just work. Evening comes. You watch the sunset through the outer dome. The twin suns dipping below the rim in tandem. Not beautiful, just familiar. Inside, the air grows still. The fans slow. The lights dim. The hum of the generator becomes the only heartbeat. You sit by the central console, writing out the day's report. No one will read it. No one else cares about your moisture levels or energy reserves. But the act itself feels anchoring. You write it all down. Tower 1, cleaned. Tower 3, calibrated. Greenhouse, new sprout viable. Perimeter, intact. Supplies, sufficient. Spirits, unchanged. You pause, then write. Still here. You close the book and stand. The cot is as you left it. The room is warm. The night outside waits with its silence. You lie down and listen once more to the tower's low hum, to the desert's hush, to your own breath. There will be another morning, and you will rise again.